Jamuna tira vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Shatashi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Shatashi Srimad His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Garantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to Shishiguru and Shigauranga.
Hare Krishna. So we're continuing. Today's verse is Srimad Bhagavatam 7.13.34. The chapter is entitled The Behavior of a Perfect Person. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namaham Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesh Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I'll chant text 34 and we can chant responsibly. Shoha moha baya krodha raga kaibya shramayaha yan mula syurarnam jayat spirham pranatayor buddha shoka moha baya krodha raga kaibya shramadaya yan mula syur nirnam jayat spirham pranastayor buddham shoka moha baya krodam raga klaibya shramadaya yan mula syur nirnam jayat spirham pranatayor buddham. Let's chant. Soka moha baya krodha raga klaibya shramadaya yan muda syarninam jayat spirham pranatayor buddham. Shoha moha bhavakrodha raga klaibya shramadaya yan mula syurninam jayat spirham pranatayor buddham. The word for word. Shoha, shoka, lamentation. Moha, illusion. Baya, fear. Krodha, anger. Raga, attachment. Klaibya, poverty. Shrama, unnecessary labor. Adaya, and so on. Yatmula, the original cause of all these. Syu, become. Nirnam, of human beings. Jayat, should give up. Spirham, the desire. Prana, for bodily strength or prestige. Atayaha, and accumulating money. Buddha, an intelligent person. Translation. Those in human society who are intelligent should give up the original cause of lamentation, illusion, fear, anger, attachment, poverty, and unnecessary labor. The original cause of all of these is the desire for unnecessary prestige and money. Purport. Here is the difference between Vedic civilization and the modern demoniac civilization. Vedic civilization concerned itself with how to achieve self-realization, and for this purpose, one was recommended to have a small income to maintain body and soul together. The society was divided into Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras, and the members of this society would limit their endeavors to meeting their minimum demands. The Brahmanas, in particular, would have no material desires. Because the Kshatriyas had to rule the people, it was necessary for them to have money and prestige. But the Vaishyas were satisfied with agricultural produce and milk from the cow. And if by chance there were excess, trade was allowed. The Sudras were also happy, for they would get food and shelter from the three higher classes. In the demoniac civilization of the present day, however, there is no question of Brahmanas or Kshatriyas. They are only so-called workers and a flourishing mercantile class who have no goal in life. According to Vedic civilization, the ultimate perfection of life is to take sannyas. But at the present moment, people do not know why sannyas is accepted. Because of misunderstanding, they think that one accepts sannyas to escape social responsibilities. But one does not accept sannyas to escape from responsibility to society. Generally, one accepts sannyas at the fourth stage of spiritual life. One begins as a brahmachari, then becomes a grahastha, a vanaprastha, and finally a sannyas to take advantage of the duration of one's life by engaging fully in self-realization. Sannyas does not mean begging from door to accumulate money for sense gratification. However, because in Kali Yuga, people are more or less prone to sense gratification, immature sannyas is not recommended. Srila Rupa Goswami writes in the Nectar of Instruction, text 2, Atyahara prayashascha prajalpo niyam agraha jana sangascha lolyam cha shadbir bhaktir vinashyati. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. 1. Eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. 2. Over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. 3. Talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. 4. Practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scripture and working independently or whimsically. 5. Associating with worldly-minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6. Being greedy for mundane achievement. A sannyasi should have an institution meant to preach Krishna consciousness. He need not accumulate money for himself. We recommend that as soon as money accumulates in our Krishna consciousness movement, 50% of it should be invested in printing books and 50% for expenditures, especially in establishing centers all over the world. The managers of the Krishna consciousness movement should be extremely cautious in regard to this point. Otherwise, money will be the cause of lamentation, illusion, fear, anger, material attachment, material poverty, and unnecessary hard work. When I was alone in Vrindavan, I never attempted to construct mats or temples. Rather, I was fully satisfied with the small amount of money I could gather by selling back to Godhead. And thus I would provide for myself and also print the literature. When I went to foreign countries, I lived according to the same principle. But when Europeans and Americans began to give money profusely, I started temples and deity worship. The same principle should still be followed. Whatever money is collected should be spent for Krishna and not a farthing for sense gratification. That is the Bhagavat principle. So, just read the translation again. Those in human society who are intelligent should give up the original cause of lamentation, illusion, fear, anger, attachment, poverty, and unnecessary labor. The original cause of all of these is a desire for unnecessary prestige and money. So, looking at the one statement of Srila Prabhupada's, that he says the society was divided into Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras, and the members of this society would limit their endeavors to meeting their minimum demands. So I thought this was a good starting point to look at the sage's statement here. I thought this particular statement of Srila Prabhupada is kind of expanding on the sage's statement. So we can note that Srila Prabhupada is putting an emphasis on minimum demands. So regarding the psychophysical needs, which applies to all four divisions of society. So Srila Prabhupada, he makes a connection between the work of the particular caste or division in society and the fulfillment of their desires. So the intelligent caste or division in society, the Brahmanas, they wouldn't have material desires because their work is service to Lord Krishna. Then the Kshatriyas, because they're ruling, they're the administrative class, they had a desire, because they're needing to manage things, and they required money, and of course also the prestige that goes with it, because obviously one's position has to be supported by the view of others or the acceptance of others of one in that position. So, but they would also be resourceful, so it's qualified. And the Vaishyas, the farming and cow protection, had their material desires taken care of because there would be agricultural produce and milk. And the Sudras, because they're working in serving the other societal divisions, they also got their desires fulfilled, and their desire was just for food and shelter, more simple. So now, to understand how the members of each of the societal divisions are limiting their endeavors to meet minimum demands, we have to note that each division in society, all the members in that particular division, they're characterized by certain qualities. So, because we need to understand how it's possible to just act to meet minimum demands. So now I'll bring up at this point that in the present time in society, this principle of dividing society, and we've discussed it for many weeks through previous chapter, of dividing the society into four divisions, the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras, this principle has actually been lost. And so the entire institution, in fact, is not there. So now the desires of the members of each division in society is very much connected to the qualities that are coming from their own nature. So we've got everything's perfectly ordered. The persons that fit into the categories, they've got certain qualities. So we're going to look at those. So Lord Krishna gives a description of these qualities for each division in society. So we can understand why Brahmanas, for instance, don't have material desires. Because the qualities by which they are working immediately is self-control. There's austerity, there's purity, there's peacefulness, there's tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. So many extraordinary qualities that the Brahmana has. But so these are the qualities by which they're acting. So you can see by the long listing that the material desires are very, very limited. So in fact, it's supposed to be no material desires, but naturally that may not be fully possible, but at least very minimal. So they're in fact concentrating their life, their mind, and also their sensory activities on the Supreme Lord. Now, the Kshatriyas, on the other hand, as this division in society, the perfect group and everybody functioning with the similar qualities. So their particular qualities, which are just coming from their nature, are control of the bodily necessities. So interesting, I mentioned earlier that they're very resourceful. So they have the need for money, but they're very resourceful. So they actually have got control of their bodily necessities. And they also are very attached to the Brahminical nature. So the Kshatriya is very attached to the Brahmana. Very interesting. And they're very interesting too. They're always very jolly and truthful. So, and of course, they have to be, by the nature of their work, if they're in the military, they have to be very influential in battle, and in fact, even unconquerable, challenging, and to counteract that, very charitable, and patient. So quite very interesting balancing of qualities. So, so naturally, to be engaged in battle, or even to be able to be charitable, which means helping those who are in some need through ruling a kingdom, there's a necessity for money. There's no doubt about that. I mean, we know, well, I won't go there. We'll just keep on this and I'll come to it. Finally, the qualities that are born of the nature of the Sudras, or sorry, of the Vaishyas, before I get to the Sudras, as a societal group, are they have a nature that's endeavoring for economic development. They want to see, more money being acquired. So they need economic development, and they need to gratify their senses. So these are the Vaishyas. So their efforts are endeavoring in earning money and also endeavoring to advance in religious principles at the same time. So again, nice balance. And finally, the Sudras have minimal endeavors to meet their needs because as a group they've been facilitated by the other societal divisions. But what the particular qualities that they're operating by are one of servitude towards the master. So generally that's a very prominent characteristic of persons falling into that division of society. And they're also quite clear about giving protection to cows and brahmanas. So they understand. And they, on a personal level, the Sudras are free from duplicity, so they're honest. They speak the truth. And they also offer obeisances to all the higher castes of society. So a very pious approach. So these are some of the qualities that Lord Krishna describes are coming from the nature of the members that belong to each of these groups within society. Now, Srila Prabhupada here, he's contrasting Vedic civilization, which has this concern for self-realization, so elevating consciousness, with modern civilization, where the concern is for enjoying the material world to its utmost limit. So, quite different goals or concerns. So now this principle of Varnashram Dharma, we know it's actually been created by Lord Krishna. So it's his plan for how society can function beautifully. So as he puts it, according to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society are created by me. So it's from Bhagavad Gita 4.13. So, but the division is a lot in relation to the body. So even, the qualities, it's the body. So the fact is that we actually can't see ourselves in relation to the body, and hence our categorization in a particular division of society. That's the truth of the matter. So a lot of it is external, but allowing for nice ordering. The real reason why one cannot really see oneself in relation to a particular division in society is that we're actually changing bodies. So it means that, say, somebody is falling into one division in society in one lifetime, but in the next lifetime they may fall into a completely different division in society. So this is because they achieve that transference of the soul into a different body. So the implication is that this categorization within one division may change with the change of body. So, from the transcendental perspective, one has to be conscious of that. One accepts perhaps being in a particular division, but one understands the goal and one doesn't fully, identify with it. One performs the duties related to it. So, actual Dharma or religion begins when each member in those four societal divisions comes to the platform or that level of understanding of the soul. So that's when proper religion begins. So, so these societal divisions are created by Lord Krishna for the systemic development of Krishna consciousness. So it's very necessary to, apart from the ashram, connect it to the dharma part. So coming to that understanding on the level of the soul. So even though the brahmanas, kshatriyas, etc., are in their particular divisions, still there has to be a transcendent view of their position and practices that go along with that. So for instance, the regular brahmana, usually because the qualities that I described, they're actually concerned with fixing their whole focus on worshiping the Supreme Lord. But according to Srila Prabhupada, the most they can do, unless they develop the transcendent aspect, is approach the impersonal manifestation of Krishna. So that's the furthest. If it's just the ashram, that's the furthest they can go. So even the brahmana needs to go past the limited understanding that's allowed by the ashram. There has to be the dharmic aspect, coming to the level of understanding of the soul. So now this elevated level of understanding um, is characterized by a freedom from material anxiety. That's like the thing that's extremely prevalent when the transcendent view is there. There's a freedom from material anxiety. Um, and we get a description from the sage what material anxiety looks like. He puts it very clearly, a desire for unnecessary prestige and money. So, I suppose the thing to look at is how this plays itself out. So, material happiness, if there's not that transcendent view, so whichever division in society is, the persons who are looking for material happiness, they need to bring their senses in contact with some sense object. So, and they also have to hold some concept of their status and how those objects are going to augment their status. So that's what material happiness, how you could put it in a nutshell. So I recently have been confronted with quite a graphic illustration of this in action, so I'm going to share it. Um, I have a sibling who had got an inherited property, and he believed that he would get a greater amount of wealth if he only sold that property after a period of time when the particular country that that property was in becomes part of the European Commonwealth. So, because formerly that country was a socialist communist country. So now he's obviously holding a concept of himself as being, a very astute businessman. He's, Vaishya. So his concern is he's got to actually have some economic development. So now my spiritual master describes that a very interesting thing happens as a result of trying to find some enjoyment in matter or in some tangible object. So, or even trying to hold on to some material designation, like, seeing oneself in relation to the role one's playing in society. So, that thing that happens is that the more one tries to enjoy matter, the more one finds frustration. So, it's the way my spiritual master has put it. So, the reason for this is that matter doesn't have that potency to satisfy the soul. So, going back to my example of my sibling, because it's very graphic for me at the moment because this is what's happening right now. My sibling derived pleasure from the idea of greater wealth further down the line. So, but it actually proved to be an illusory idea, because actually, even though that country entered the European Commonwealth, there was no change in the prosperity of the country. It didn't become a more prosperous country, which meant that property value didn't change. So, now, my spiritual master explains that even if there appears to be some pleasure, but that pleasure proves to be very flickering. It's very temporary. And often, what it brings with it is even more suffering. There's suffering that comes further down the line rather than enjoyment. And this example for me illustrated this point very perfectly. because the attendant suffering that came for my sibling is that the property degraded over time. So I recently got to see some pictures. So there was this perfect property, stone house and, everything intact. And then one sees many years have passed in the interior, there's plastic falling off the walls everywhere. So the result is that there now has to be, there's a lot of suffering going to be involved because there's going to have to be a huge amount of money put into the restoration of that property, whereas it could have been averted had there not been that attachment to the idea of economic development further down the line. So Lord Krishna describes an intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. So it's from Bhagavad Gita 5.22. So the sage is echoing Lord Krishna's words, because he's pinpointing that it's the concepts that one holds of oneself and the drive for prestige and money, which is the cause of lamentation. So, of course, there's the breakdown of the Van Ashram principle at the present time, and this means that there's also a breakdown in the work. Even though work has been done, the accompanying work to make some sacrifice for the Supreme is not there. So there's a major problem. So if that sacrifice for Krishna is present alongside the work one is performing within one's societal division, then knowledge is coming and the soul is satisfied. So it's necessary to coordinate one's activities with one's relationship with Lord Krishna. They cannot work in isolation. And this is the way to live without material worries. So that supreme occupation, or the Dharma, for all humanity, irrespective of which division in society one is in, is that one by which men can attain to loving devotional service to Krishna. That's the supreme Dharma, because it's going to bring that transcendent perspective, both in the performance of one's duties, and it will also allow for the alleviation of all the normal anxieties that accompany just functioning, looking at material objects and one's relation to them, and the prestige and power that will come with the acquisition of those objects or the expansion of those objects. So you can say that there's the members of society in general need to see themselves in relation to Krishna. And so they need to dedicate their worldly activities to Krishna. And also to see their belongings and their very selves in relation to Krishna. It's essential. In this way, like even in the case of economic development, like in the example that I gave, it's only going to be used to supply the bare necessities of life. There's not a thought that one is going to get more than one should be getting. One understands everything in the proper perspective. So there's the nice verse from Srimad Bhagavatam on Srila Sutta Goswami, where he says the supreme occupation dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. And such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. That's from Srimad Bhagavatam 1-6. So savai pumsam paro dharma yato bhakti radokshaye Ahantu ki aparitahata yayatma suprasidati. So this is the only way to actually get the proper understanding of only functioning to meet the bare necessities of life. Otherwise, incredible distress. And as the sage explains, unnecessary labor, even poverty, anger, illusion, all of it is there. So, those are some short thoughts on this particular verse. I don't know if anybody has some comments that might help to expand it a little.
I was thinking the philosophy is hankering and lamenting are the mode of passion. So that's what we see now, and what you were explaining, but that was like a concise phrase that I remember. And well, Prabhupada said they're mad after sense gratification because that's all they know. And then the example I was about Lakshmi and Narayan, they have to go together. So if you're collecting Lakshmi, it should be used in Narayan's service. That's the perfection of that, And then Prabhupada said they're trying to find happiness where there is no happiness. But when you were saying about the different, the Sudras, the Vaishyas, the Kshatriyas, and the Brahmins, Prabhupada said would be very difficult to enact in this present, situation in the material world, because there's so much lack of trust amongst, people of the haves and the have-nots. So if we're able to make people understand this, then they'll be happy and there won't be that envy in society. But when people start thinking they're going to be exploited, they'll reject it all. So those are just a few things that came to my mind.
Thank you, Jitendra Prabhu. Yes, that point of the hankering and the lamentation being in the mode of passion, it ties in very nicely with Srila Prabhupada in the purport. He mentions in the present time there's only a mercantile class and the workers. So the mercantile class is that mode of passion class. Yeah.
Is just out of envy, That's how that. And then Prabhupada also said, he said, if a man's not married, he won't endeavor so much for economic development. He'll be satisfied, But then when other things come into play, it's very a disturbing situation. He calls it. To say the least.
Say.
Yeah, that's where the attachment part is. So wherever there's attachment, it increases the complexity and the misery.
I was just appreciating, well, actually, it's quite something, this verse, because in modern society and the education that we receive, if you want to solve lamentation, hankering, illusion, fear, poverty, all those problems, the solution for that is economic development, is to be more materially, strong. So that's basically the whole idea of the modern world. That's the education that we have. You want to be something, you study to get yourself a better situation, so you don't have to suffer poverty, you don't have to suffer anxiety, lamentation, etc., fear. You can have all that you require, but here it is said that the cause, original cause of all these things is exactly, the economic development, money and prestige. So it's quite something, because it just go to the other extreme. Actually, in fact, it's not. It's a cause. So if you're intelligent, you avoid that, But it's so ingrained in the world, in society, as and people, ourselves. That idea that you need, some economic development, to be able to, uh, uh, avoid these things. But the words of the Bhagavatam are like that.
Yeah. I mean, the Vedas um, uh, give the option of two paths. I mean, there's the path of sense gratification, which would be, the economic development emphasis, and the other path, which is the Nivriti path, the path of renunciation. So, if again one has to connect the activity with some sacrifice to the Supreme. So if there's not that sacrifice, then naturally all these terrifying realities are there: the illusion, the fear, the anger, the lamentation, poverty. All of that is there without the sacrifice to the Supreme. It has to accompany any attempt at economic development. So that's the error.
Yeah, in that second chapter, the first canto, the description of, one's life force and life desire should not be directed for sense gratification, and whatever facility is there is simply to be used for, just like it says here, just the whatever is needed to keep one's, life going. So the bare minimum that is required. So then one can direct one's energy to inquire about the absolute, to understand the absolute. So that's the whole principle of simple living, high thinking. That is what the Vedas tell us, So yeah, it's very wonderful, I think.
Yeah. I mean, the benefit derived from just living simply is such great internal wealth and such an avoidance of so much distress that it's a path to be embraced. And the allurement of, that economic development is actually something that, one can see as being quite poisonous, because there actually isn't any happiness or peace in following that path. I mean, naturally, with regulation, like the Vedas prescribe it, it's still possible to perform things in a dharmic way, where there is the desire to follow the path of sense enjoyment. But certainly, it's a very inferior path. I mean, inferior to the path of renouncing and learning to make sacrifices for Lord Krishna.
Yeah, one question you can, ask is, how do you deal? I mean, you get basically from the very beginning indoctrinated that, you require you have to have some economic development capacity to be able to, basically function in this world, in society. And so how you deal with the fear of not having enough, and especially for those who are either in household life or looking to enter in household life, how you going to deal, with. So, in other words, to take this concept of simple living and high thinking, and being able to survive in a society that is, like economic development, or basically, you be in the street. You won't be able to provide.
Well, the connection with Krishna, who's the source of all wealth and protection, automatically allays any kind of fear. So again, one does what's necessary. And it's quite a simple matter, in actual fact, to make some arrangements to have bare necessities of life. It need not be a very complex thing. And the particular qualities that the person has, automatically draw the person to a particular kind of work. I mean, one sees that. So the arrangement need not be complex, and merely having the connection with Lord Krishna allays that fear of not being able to provide, because one has a sense of the protection and the blessings that are coming, that are making one's life peaceful, as opposed to an anxiety-filled life that is going to remain anxiety-filled, even if some amazing arrangement is made for economic development. The anxiety will continue. It doesn't end. Whereas in the other case, it's no anxiety because of the connection with Lord Krishna, and then some simple arrangement is made that requires some intelligence, but because of the protection of Lord Krishna, there's no anxiety. So maybe a little bit of anxiety as one has to apply one's intelligence, but after that, no anxiety. In this case, anxiety in the beginning, anxiety at the end, and no relief from it. So, the connection with Lord Krishna, the transcendent perspective, is essential. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.